Alrighty, so today we are going to work on a house in Maya. We're just going to cover the basic parts, and what I'm going to do is first start out with a basic shape. Now, houses come in many different shapes, and it's just a matter of kind of understanding how you're going to kind of build that shape. I'm not going to measure this out, but I'm just going to essentially put in a segment we'll do like an L shape, a ranch style house, just to kind of give you the base. And I'm using the grid as a rough guide just to show you the idea. Okay. Now, the first thing is you have to understand houses are many different parts. They start out from foundation. The foundation is the actual building itself, and then you have roofs, which have overhang. They have eaves, gutters, windows, doors, and so there's a lot of different parts that make a house. And so the things that we're going to focus on are essentially kind of shape and form. So, for example, if I'm going to do a roof, and I'm going to have a roof going in one direction, and then this side is going to go in the other direction, what I need to understand is I need some sort of kind of roof line. Okay, and for our purposes here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just raise this slightly, and this will be the overhang of the roof in different areas, so we can kind of understand how that goes. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is essentially take this section here. Actually, I'm going to take this section here and I'm going to raise it up just a hair, and so I'm going to have two sections. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift right click and go multi-cut, and I'm going to do 50%. So you can see 50% there. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to do 50% there. Okay, so this is my roof line of my house. And so essentially what I'm going to do is go into edge mode, and I'm going to grab my roof line like so, and I'm just going to raise it up. Now, once I raise it up, it's going to be straight across here, but this is where you have to understand that your triangles kind of don't work. So what we're going to do is we are going to simply go in here and multi-cut, and I'm going to cut a seam from here to here, and that will give us the kind of edge loop. So you can see that edge loop disappears, and then you'll notice over here it's kind of wonky too, so we need an edge cut from here to here. And so by doing that, that's going to give us our roof in kind of all different parts. Now, there's different ways to do this. We could have skipped that, and I can simply take this edge here, and basically raise that up and straighten that out. And I could have had a hip gable style roof. It really depends on what you're looking for, but essentially I'm going to straighten that out here, and then again you'd need a multi-cut from this point to create that edge of that roof. And so that's essentially the way your roof is kind of set. Now, the reason we cut out some of this stuff here is because of the simple fact that the house itself has overhangs. Now, there's different types of overhangs for different areas, and so you have to understand kind of a little bit of construction. So I'm going to just kind of raise this here. That's going to be that construction element right there, and then I'm going to raise this here, and that's going to be that construction. So first things first, we need to extrude these out. These are our overhangs of our roof, so I'm going to just extrude that out like so. And I'm going to grab this and extrude that out like so. So that basically gives us our roof overhang, if you will. And then what I'm going to do is I need some sort of roof overhang here. So I'm going to grab these two sections like so, and I'm going to grab this section here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale that inward, right? And so with that scaled inward like so, I don't need to worry too much about where it's going. I'm going to just grab these edges here like so, and I'm going to move that edge over like this, and I'm going to move these two edges over like so until they kind of flatten out. looking at it, you can kind of eyeball it up. So once those are straight, then I'm going to grab that face here, like so. And I'm going to grab this face here, and I'm just going to bring that down until it is pretty close to even with the same angle. So you can see here, might need to be, that looks good, and that looks good. So that gives me the roof section right there. And then this overhang here, because this section is essentially one section, I'm just going to kind of extrude that outward and then bring that down like that. And then I'm going to basically extrude this section here. So again, go to vertice, grab this vertice, pull it up like this. And then I'm going to grab this, actually I'm going to grab this here. And this section here is going to kind of have to overlap just the way kind of houses are. So this would go down like so, and then this would come down like so. So that kind of creates a weird crossover. You don't want that, so I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to basically pull this down like this, and that's going to give me a weird kind of edge loop here. And then I'm going to grab this piece here, and I'm going to just pull it out like so until that edge kind of lines up. So you can see it's a little bit wonky. I'm just going to grab that like so, and that's kind of the edge loop, if you will. And then again, it's just a matter of grabbing these edges here, and in this one here, I'm just going to make sure it lines up with the roof window here, if that makes sense. So this might be pushed a little bit backwards like that, and then that might be pushed so this here might be pushed a little bit forward, something like that. So I might want to play around with that, but that's the kind of gist. I just need to line things up. It looks like this angle here doesn't work well, so it might just mean that I have to kind of adjust things accordingly. So if I pull that up like so, that looks straight, and then I'm going to grab that and pull it back here. So I just need to make sure things line up. Now, once you've got your roof done, your roof extruded, the big thing about this is that you have to understand that most of your roofing and soffitting and stuff like that is not straight up and down. They actually angle backwards like this. So it's just a matter of going around and kind of fixing that on each one. And you can, again, kind of grab and kind of pull back, and as long as you get kind of a 90-degree angle, that works okay. And so that is essentially, I'm going to grab all this and kind of pull that back like so, and that looks good. And then I'm going to grab this and pull that back maybe up a little bit, and then grab this edge here and push that back a little bit, and maybe up a little bit more. And it's just a matter of eyeballing it kind of where you need it. You can see that this edge here is a little bit wonky. Go into vertice and just grab that and kind of make sure it lines up accordingly. So you can kind of definitely see where things need to line up. So once that's all done, the only other thing I can see that needs to be done is essentially grab this and pull that out. So that is the basics of our roof, and now you need to add the other things to that. So for example, if we were to add a garage door, one of the big things about the garage door is the simple fact that you have to create a section for the door. So you can notice that I put a nice square line in here. And the reason I did that is because if I do a multi-cut here, works perfectly fine. And if I do a multi-cut here, this will work perfectly fine. But if it did not have this edge, so for example, if I go in and just control backspace that edge, and then I try to do a multi-cut here, you can see it gets wonky and I don't get my horizontal edges. So with that idea, I'm just going to undo that to bring that back. And then from there, it's just a matter of cutting holes and putting in elements accordingly. So if I want to add a window or a door, say I wanted to add a window, I could just simply add a face here, or I can add more edge loops and then kind of build that out. Windows and doors are, depending on the style of the house, they have frames and soffits and things like that. So this is giving you the good basic structure of working on a simple house for construction. And this will give you kind of the foundation that you need to kind of build up and kind of move. Now, if you want to do anything else, say you wanted a foundation on here, you could simply scale, for example, scale that down as an extrude, and then basically kind of grab this and pull this downward a little bit. Now, then we're going to grab this line work here, and because we've indented that in, we can indent that in this way, and we can indent it in this way, and we can indent it in this way. And now we have that base foundation of our house in all different directions. So it's simple things like that, but the main thing is now if I wanted a door, I can easily add a door in there or any other kind of information. All right, so that's the basics of getting a simplified shape for a house and start building from there. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.